Room, the only way to start your day.
To play down that situation, we're looking at a problem. Dr. Davies Okombo is an educationist. He joins us in the studio this morning to have a conversation around how are grade 10 learners the new challenge, and we'll give insights into that. Very good morning to you.
Good morning, and thank you so much.
Karibu Sana, good to see you. Thank you for being here.
It's a pleasure.
A country that is close to your heart is Lesotho. Mm-hmm. That's where our proverbs are. And then you can explain, Dennis, there's a story here. Yeah. That's where our proverbs are from this morning. But yes.
I want to know the story. But it is also considered the kingdom in the sky. Why? Because the entire country is at the highest elevation in the world, 1,000 feet above sea level. You know, if you wanted to enjoy snow, you don't need to leave the borders of the continent. Just go to Lesotho and you'll enjoy snow because it's really cold. They have a hat. You'll find that in the, it's a national monument, a national symbol because it's in their flag. But they also have the Basotho blanket because it's cold. They must get warm. But the proverb, even as you tell me about the story, a cow is held by its horns, a person by their words. How would you interpret it?
Thank you indeed, Dennis and Du. And I'm really glad that today's Proverbs is from Lesotho, a country that is really close to my heart, because I led a team of 10 people working in Maseru, at the Heritage House directly next to the High Court. So I have been to Lesotho. I've worked together with the Lesotho Defense Forces to address the challenges of young people in Lesotho. Now back to the Sesotho proverb. Horns basically represent strength, and therefore, for accountability purposes, horns have traditionally been seen as a symbol of strength, and that is why leaders like President Museveni, who is a Banyankole, and with the Ankole cows, they think they're so powerful and they can close down TV stations and so on. And on the other hand, when we talk about men being held by the words that they speak, it all goes back to the accountability that we should be able to walk the talk, the words, the promises that we give. And in today's context, there have been a lot of promises, policy statements in regard to education in our country. And the question is whether the government is really committed to delivering free and compulsory basic education to the children in Kenya. Thank you.
Well said. Well
Indeed.
said.
So we went on midterm and things were a bit scraggly here because, you know, people were saying we need to go on midterm now. We burned the school. This was actually conversations that people were having. There was a lot of unrest before we went. Some schools closed early because, especially secondary schools, closed early because the tension was unbelievably high. And, you know, kids came home and then 7,300 school heads went to Mombasa for a week to discuss what was going to be done to ensure that the problems that were experienced before the holiday would never be experienced again. I do not know what progress they made, but one of the things that has come out very clearly is that a lot of the unrest stirs within the corridors of the grade 10 learners. This is it's not a new thing. It has been established. What could be the problem? Where are you introducing children, learners who have entered into, remember, these were the guinea pigs of this curriculum. The grade 10s currently were the pioneer class of the CBC before it became CBE. In 2019, they entered into grade 3. Now they're in grade 10. Still, for all intents and purposes, in the old system of school, but now in the new education. And it seems like a lot of this uproar is being stirred from amongst them. Why do you think that would be?
Thank you very much indeed. First, allow me to extend my profound condolence to the parents and families that lost 16 girls at the Utumishi Academy. and we pray that they may have the grace and the mercy to go through this process. And it's my desire that no parent will have to lose a girl or a boy in a school which is supposed to be a safe space. Having said that, allow me to locate education under the laws and the constitution of Kenya before, so that you can understand where we have failed. Article 53 of the Constitution of Kenya guarantees the right of the child, and specifically subsection B provides for free and compulsory basic education for all children in Kenya. And this is a constitutional provision. It is not a privilege that we are granting our children. Now, when it comes to student unrest, I know that there have been a lot of concerns that this could be directly related to the grade 10 learners, but allow me to break ranks with those of opinion and go deeply into the causes of student unrest in Kenya that we have consistently spoken about. The first student unrest in Kenya took place in 1908 at Maseno School, and the students in that particular school protested against racism that occurred, in the sense that students of Maseno at that time could only study technical skills, while the white students, could learn other subjects and so on. And from that time until today, students have always raised their concerns. We have had commissions like the Sagini Commission, we've had Koech Commission, and so on and so forth. And they have listed down, the concerns, the grievances that our learners experience, and I would categorize them mainly into three parts. The first part is on the issue of capitation deficit. We have a parliament in Kenya, we have the executive in Kenya that I'm not ashamed to say have failed the children of Kenya. And as the people of Kenya, it is high time that we rise and say, no, give the children what rightfully belongs to them and what is provided for in the Constitution. You cannot tell us that the ministry has actually given a capitation rate, but every now and then, every financial year, schools do not receive what they are expected to receive. And what is the result of this? One, welfare of children is undermined in the schools. They don't feed properly. They don't have water. They have poor sanitation. The dormitories are overcrowded. There is, over-enrollment of learners in the schools. The classes are congested. The teachers are stressed. And even as we speak today, Dennis and do you know that the term for the TSC secretary or the CEO is coming to an end today, which means basically that at the end of today, we have no substantive TSC CEO. Now, what does that mean? 400 teachers have no authority. The TSC is like a headless chicken. There is no one really who is there to take care of the TSC. And we cannot, as a country, pretend that we want to protect education gains for children when an independent commission like TSC has had no substantive CEO for the last 1 year. We want to ask the commission, until today, there is no statement that the commission has issued in this regard. The High Court that provided those conservatory orders, they have not vacated it. Who is going to handle issues of teacher recruitment and so on? Number two, we have to look into issues of infrastructure in our schools. CBE has a lot of challenges. For instance, there are 3 pathways, and one of the pathways is the STEM, the science, technology, engineering, and mathematics that need fully equipped laboratories. Do we have them? My answer is they are not sufficient. We have the other pathway of arts and sports, a pathway. I have been to schools in Germany and Switzerland, for example, and for those students who study music, the same pathway like in Kenya, you walk into their music studios in school, and you'd think where a Inda is producing his music is a toy, is a child's game. You see, so we don't have these facilities, and it is high time we say, no, we've reached a point where the government has, developed this CBE and so on, but it is undermining its funding, and it is high time we say no, and that is why I have consistently said, and I reiterate it today, that the CS for Education needs to resign.
Daktari, I want to look at our education and the quality there is. For a very long time, we've looked at quality of education out of how many A's we provide, how many we admit to universities, right? Yeah. But as we sit here today and look at the quality of education, especially with the new system, CBE, there is the grade path, which is good. Every student should perform well and get good grades, we agree. But we also have quality in terms of the number of teachers that we need to be able to deliver on this new system. Quality in terms of infrastructure that will aid in the development and getting the good grades, or just overall performance, whether someone is in the sports, whether someone wants to be the next big Prince Inda in the industry. All that speak about the quality that we talk about today. One asks the question, from where we sit as from where you sit as an educationist, is quality of education something that is keenly looked at by the government and say, this is the standard within which we treat ourselves to? Or are we just offering education for the sake of having numbers and say, we produced 1 million students at the end of the year?
Well, I have studied how curriculum is developed in various countries, and particular Singapore, where apparently we are being told that we aborted our flight to to Canaan, and now we are heading to Singapore. In Singapore, when they had to review the education system, it took between 15 to 20 years of clear planning, and that is why it is successful. But in Kenya, in 2017, the Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development actually developed a framework for, then it was called CBC, now it is as CBE. And today it is 9 years since the current grade 10 were in grade 9. Now, you want to tell me that the government is not aware that for the next 9 years, these children would be in grade 10. And that is why I still call out the incompetence of the Ministry of Education. Look at these facts, Dennis and do. As we speak now, teachers who are trained in the former system, the 844, they went through the so-called retooling and so on and so forth. But if you look at the studies across Kenya from different counties like Makueni, Kisumu, and so on, the teachers have demonstrated and actually said that they are ill prepared for the CBE. You cannot take a teacher through a crash course of 3 weeks, then you think they are competent enough. That also said, CBE has introduced new subjects that none of the universities in Kenya have ever trained, teachers. For instance, there is marine technology, aviation, and so on, and so forth, and there is no one, and yet students are already in grade 10. Now, look at this. The TSC has acted in what I would call ultra-vires way, that is in excess of their power, by actually shifting the policy of, in the past, every teacher was trained in 2 subjects, for instance, English and literature, and they were fully competent in that. But now TSC is saying this rule is going to be changed because there are, insufficient teachers. So you end up having someone who is not properly trained actually guiding children on aviation. And this is somebody who has not even been to Wilson Airport. They don't even know how the cockpit looks like, really. This is contrary to Sustainable Development Goal 4, which Kenya is a signatory, which calls for inclusive quality education for all. Why are we leaving Kenyan children behind? So I would say that without proper funding, without proper resourcing, we are offering poor education to our children, and that is why the private schools are thriving. When I was growing up, Dennis, in the 90s, those of my peers who went to private schools, we thought that they were not well endowed intellectually. It was that public school was a thing, public hospitals was a thing. But now look here now, nobody wants to take their children to public schools, and actually even in private schools, families that suffer financial constraints have to really sacrifice the best of their life to take their children to private schools. So it is high time the Ministry of Education should stand up and deliver quality education for every child in this country. And we are not begging them. This is a right of every child that is granted by the Constitution, not even by the President.
So do you blame students? If you, just looking at a snapshot of different reports that have come from schools, a lot of the students are in the grade 10 class across board. It was even highlighted by the CS. So, do you blame them? The things that you've talked about have a direct impact. They're not living in a vacuum.
Yep.
They know. They're not in some world. They are aware of these things that you're talking about. Would that contribute to then what we are seeing in schools when they say, well, you know what? Come on. We can see that the quality of food is below par. We can understand that capitation hasn't come, so our parents are being, asked to pay more money, or that we can see that we are treated funny. We also know that there are teachers who speak to students and ask them they live their problems vicariously through these students. Do you blame them?
Now, let me answer that in this way. A learner of today is growing up with AI, for instance. A learner of today is computer proficient, and the learner of today is very much aware of their rights. And that is actually what Article 53 of the Constitution provides for, the rights of the child. So teachers need to change their perceptions. Teachers were trained to see our children as students. A student is supposed to sit in class, receive instructions, and be tested. But both the Basic Education Act and the Basic Education Act regulations does not use the word a student in basic education. They are referred to as learners. People who have to learn, who have to, develop knowledge and so on. So they are very much aware of what their rights are. And then when they move to schools, into boarding schools in particular, and the teachers stifle their voice, they cannot speak out, contrary to the right of a child to participation. They are subjected to inhuman treatment. Recently, I had some misguided members of parliament talking about reintroduction of corporal punishment. I wish you could bring them here with me. We talk about this thing. You cannot reintroduce corporal punishment when children are simply asking for what their rights are. And if you see this caliber of MPs, that is why half of them missed on the budget day, because they don't know what they should be doing, you see. And that is where we have a policy gap. We have people who really do not want to make things right. So back to your question, yes, it is true. The learners of today are very much knowledgeable. They know what their rights are. They are conscious. They see the daily struggles of their parents as they pay fees. And therefore, they have every right to say when things are not wrong. But this does not justify the burning down of schools and destruction of property. Just as I conclude, I was in high school some years back. Actually, when I saw the deputy governor of Machakos. I studied in Kangundo in Machakos in the 90s. And during my time, actually in our school, we went not on strike, but it was a go-slow. And I was the one who
were leading the pack.
I wasn't leading. I was given the
You
chance
are
to
neat.
read out the grievances.
Okay.
And it was so peaceful. Not even a single stone was thrown. We didn't even destroy a single classroom. Until then, the principal had to leave and we got a new principal. So this is the way to go. This is the way to strike. A go slow, non-violence. This is what I would encourage every child to do. Do not have to burn school. You don't have to destroy property. You have to raise the concerns, the issues that are there. And I call on the school administrators to listen to our learners. You must give them a voice. Gone are the days when children were supposed to be seen and not heard.
Dr. When you look at how we're managing our education sector, one asks the question, do we have individuals who understand or have the wherewithal to handle our education as a system, as a sector that is very critical to the development and growth of the country that is Kenya? Why do I ask that? Because the cabinet secretary admitted, I do not know how much a child requires from ECDE all the way to tertiary. Whether it's university, whether it's TVET, he has no idea. So when it comes to budgeting, say, if I am today the cabinet secretary and for the 5 years that I'm serving, I do not know what it means for a child who's starting from ECDE to the time when my 5-year tenure would be ending. That, as well as you look at, you are overseeing a subsector where you need teachers. If you do not know how to budget, that means you equally do not know how many teachers you need for you to offer quality education. We talk about infrastructure. If you do not know how much a child needs to go to all the way from ECDE to tertiary, there is no way you would be able to know the kind of infrastructure that is needed for all these children to be accommodated in a dignified way for them to be able to deliver. Now, one question there is, if we do not have individuals who know what it is they need to do, why are we pussyfooting in letting people go and employing people who will deliver? Or is this again just another political card that we'll give to any Tom, Dick and Harry because we have the appointing power?
I agree totally with you, Dennis, in this regard. If I take you back to the history of Kenya. Under President Daniel Arap Moi, we had the dream team that was led by Dr. Richard Leakey, people like Dr. Martin Oduor and so on. These were technocrats, people who knew what they were supposed to do, and they were able really to address, those challenges, the funding challenges and mismanagement and so on that that Kenya had. And also during the time of the late former Prime Minister Raila Odinga and the late President Kibaki, we had people like Professor Nyong'o, who is the current governor of Kisumu, and then he was the Minister for National Planning. That is when we had Vision 2030 that was developed by that time, and that therefore means that the government should be able even to outsource experts out of political class, people with skills, people with knowledge, people with expertise that can run education. Because when we look at human development, there are actually three key things that have to be taken into account. And two of these, of course, is education and health. Any country that does not invest in education and any country that underfunds education will produce a very weak, incompetent human capital.
You need to say that again. Any country that doesn't invest in its education will do what?
Will produce, incompetent, demotivated, unskilled human capital that will end up bringing back Kenya 60 years back behind. And we have to say, no, this cannot continue like this, and we have to say no. And that is why I still continue to insist. I have no personal problem with the education officials, but when we have a CS who doesn't know how much it costs to educate a child, when we have a CS who doesn't know the unit cost of education per child, we only know the capitation rate for school, then there is a problem, then there is incompetence. When we have a ministry where the Auditor General revealed that 1.1 billion, and the president confirmed that, was being stolen every year for capitation, where we had ghost learners, where we had ghost schools, how could this happen when in every country there is county director of education, zonal director of education? What does this show? It shows two things. Either there is incompetence, the people don't know what they are doing, and that is why they need experts like me in that ministry. Two, it could be corruption. That is sanctioned. In my culture, in Kisumu, we have a saying, we have a lot of fish there. One of these fish is called ngege ndu. Ngege is tilapia.
Okay.
And we learn that it rots from the head. In Luo, we say that rechetopewi. That's a new terminology for you.
I've written it down.
It begins to rot from the head before it reaches the tail. So we have to ask ourselves, where is the head of this fish that is rotting?
On top of water.
Yeah, and we know it. We know it. We will refry that fish so that we have a good country for every child. We cannot keep on, living like this.
This is true. And then what must happen later? Let's take a break. Real quick one. See what's happening on the roads now. That traffic was terrible earlier on. Davies Okombo is here with us, and we're going to come back and say, okay, fine. This is where we are. It's bad. What are we going to do to then be able to sort it out? Second term, coming after the midterm is where we are now, and we're going to deliver another Form 4 to exams by the end of November. What happens? And the ones who are in grade 10 right now are going to be in grade 11 come January. Oi, I'm already tired. We'll be back in a minute. It's 9:45.
This is the Situation Room. The only way to start your day.
The world's greatest football tournament is here.
Vamos, the greatest show on turf, the biggest ever seen on planet Earth.
And wherever the game takes you, KTN, Radio Maisha and Berul FM have you covered. Missed the match? Catch every goal, every moment, and every talking point on KTN.
We are going to focus on two groups.
Which two teams will prevail to the next round?
The midfield that Mbappe is actually carrying to this particular World Cup is out of this world.
For every match, every attack, every save and every goal, tune in to Radio Maisha and Berur FM for live commentary that puts you right inside the stadium. Watch the highlights, hear the passion.
France itakuwa final na itachukua kikombe. World Cup mpango mzima this time round tunaichukua Afrika.
KTN
World Cup 26.
Africa!
Lead the World Cup.
This June, step into a bigger entertainment experience with more to love on Us. We're talking more drama, more action, more unforgettable stories, all waiting for you.
All hands on deck.
We're opening up our world of entertainment so you can view more.
Good job, partner.
This June, pay for your current DSTV subscription and we'll upgrade you at no extra cost.
My name is Nancy Njao, CEO and Managing Director, Family Bank. Join me on the Trading Bell as we discuss key milestones of Family Bank, listing at the NSE by introduction, as well as conversations around the impact that this great institution is making in the society. See you then.
For over 4 decades, Family Bank stands strong in powering Kenya's economic, social, and environmental growth, supporting individuals, families, and businesses to thrive.
Family Bank, imara pamoja. Family Bank,
imara pamoja. Tuko imara pamoja, with you for life.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
We say, elimu bora elimu, right?
Yeah.
And then we go to grade 11. Are we even ready for that? Somebody now suddenly is solidly in a pathway. By the time they get to grade 12, they're done. How do you ensure that somebody actually went through the thing, had everything that they needed? We already know that capitation is a whole mess. We know that even the way they're treated is a problem. Teachers are not happy. For goodness sake, today is the 30th of June. No TSC leader. Everything is up in the air. How do you truly say that you have an education system when everything seems to be bursting at the seams?
Thank you. Thank you very much. First and foremost, I think it's high time that the government can really be committed to its legal and constitutional obligations. As I said before, and I reiterate now, education is not a privilege. It is a constitutional right of every child in this country that should be granted. Secondly, in order for us to at least salvage what we can now, number one, the TSC impasse needs to be resolved. And I think the High Court, although it is independent and we really respect that, should make decisions while looking at the national interest and the rights of the children. The rights of the children provides for what we call the best interest of the child. Before you issue those conservatory orders and so on, we have to think of that child in Laikipia, that child in Marsabit, and how that action would really affect them. So, as a matter of urgency, Kenya needs a substantive a CEO of TSC. We don't have time to wait further. We need somebody who is going to be in charge of recruitment and management of teachers. We cannot keep waiting for this no matter what it costs. I would wish that at the end of today, Tuesday, the commission makes a statement. If they don't, we are going to ask them tomorrow again. We need a statement on the fate of the TSC secretary, because we need teachers, we need retooling of teachers, we need management of teachers. How are we going to do that when we don't have this person? Number two, if we can consolidate all the education allocations we have from the CDF, you wonder what the hell members of parliament have to run education. They're supposed to legislate and oversight. What the hell are they doing, issuing out bursaries and so on? Bring back that money to Ministry of Education. The president has allocation for education. What the hell is he doing with that money in State House? Bring it back to the Education Ministry. The governors who were even here before me, and you could see what they said. Let them bring back that money to Education Ministry so that we can bridge this capitation deficit. And once we have bridged it, as a matter of priority, improve the infrastructure in our schools. Our children need to sleep in better dormitories. A school is not supposed to be a prison. We need our children to be in a safe environment. We need laboratories. We need libraries in our schools. We need books in our schools. We need proper student welfare in our schools. And there is money for that. We have to ask the ministry, where do you take this money? Or if Treasury is not allocating, why is it not doing so? This is not a privilege. Again, there have been some things that happen in Kenya education which we are not really happy about. You know about the DCI, Under Inspector General of Police, and they keep threatening children. We will put you in police, certificate, good conduct. We will say you are rude, violent. That is silly. There is no provision in law for good conduct certificate. This is an administrative action by the police, which is illegal. I call on the MPs to specify under which circumstances can the police record those, criminal staff and keep them for how long. We don't just want them to act administratively as if we are in Uganda. No, this is Kenya. We fought for. We shed our blood for human rights and so on. We have to respect these rights. And lastly, I would call for research. People, we have to get into the root causes of all this. We've had a lot of commissions. We are tired of these presidential commissions. We already have them. The ministry has them. Why can't they implement them? And researchers in the universities can further, add into the knowledge that is already existing so that we have quality education for all children in Kenya. But as I said, this is the time to deliver education for every child in Kenya. It is now, not tomorrow.
Tari, you said something earlier that the fish rots from the top, right? Yeah. From the head.
Yeah.
From the head, right? Now, let's say the fish here we talk about is the government. And the reason why I bring that analogy or perspective is because if you look at even the origin of budgets that would then inform even how allocation that would go to education, it emanates from the ministerial level, where ministerial level, that is cabinet is the president, right? Yeah. And then with that, then you look at the appointing authority of the people who will be overseeing the education sector. That again is president, who appoints the cabinet secretary, who will then oversee the day-to-day running of these of the education sector. Talk about PSs. Yeah. But all we've seen over time is that we had Machogu, when the cabinet was dissolved, we brought in what's his name? Ogamba yeah. Migos, right? We brought in Ogamba Migos. When he had a problem with the PSs, what has happened? We just switched them, took one problem from one ministry to the other. How we really address the root cause of the problem? But you look at education as is today, there is a feeling, my humble opinion, that education has been politicized. It is why the MP has CDF. And in that CDF, there are bursaries that will go to their electorates. Why? Because that is a political tool. There's a reason why the